I knew it, I suspected it, and I was right. Is everything okay? I asked my husband, after I had walked in on him and caught him standing by one of our rear windows overlooking the garden staring at our new neighbour. My husband quickly turned around in shock. Yeah, I'm okay, he said shell-shocked, like a teenager who'd be caught red-handed, doing something he shouldn't be doing. How long have you been standing there? My husband Ben asked me, searching for an answer he probably already knew. 10 minutes, I said, watching his reaction. My husband looked so uncomfortable. He deserves it, I think. Secretly watching your beautiful neighbour sunbathing in her garden was a bit creepy, if you asked me. I probably shouldn't have told him. I had been standing behind him. Should I? He stood with his back to the window, trying to block me from seeing whatever he was looking at in the garden. I played the fool, pretending not to show interest in whatever he was looking at on the other side of the window overlooking the garden. Then Ben moved closer and kissed me. The woman next door had only moved in about 4 weeks ago. Young, blonde, toned in that effortless way that made you immediately suspect a strict diet and expensive Pilates classes. The kind of woman who looked good without trying, or maybe tried very hard to look like she wasn't trying at all. Her name was Chloe. I knew because Ben had mentioned it twice already. Our neighbour seems friendly, he'd said. Our neighbour drives a Porsche. Our neighbour works from home, apparently. Small details, innocent observations. At least that's what I told myself. Until now. Because men don't stare at flowers for 10 straight minutes with their mouths slightly open, and they definitely don't panic when their wives walk into the room. I folded my arms casually and leaned against the kitchen island. You sure you're okay? I asked again. Ben cleared his throat. Yeah, just thinking. Thinking. Of course. Outside, I could see the reflection in the glass clearly enough. Chloe was stretched across a sun lounger in a tiny black bikini, headphones on, completely unbothered by the world around her. She looked like the type of woman Instagram was invented for, and my husband looked hypnotized. The worst part wasn't even the staring. It was how familiar this feeling suddenly felt. The instinct, the suspicion. That quiet little shift women notice before men realize they're behaving differently. Ben had been distracted lately, protective of his phone, suddenly interested in going to the gym again, wearing cologne to work on random Tuesdays. Tiny things. Tiny things always become big things eventually. I walked past him toward the kettle. You know, I said lightly, you could just say she's attractive. Ben froze. What? Our neighbour, I said. She's objectively beautiful. I'm not blind. His face reddened instantly. I wasn't. You were staring. I was not staring. I smiled slightly. Ben, you almost stopped breathing. He laughed awkwardly, but I could hear the nervousness underneath it. It's not what you think. That sentence, every woman hates that sentence, because somehow it always means exactly what you think. I poured hot water into a mug slowly, carefully. I stood behind you for almost 10 minutes, I said calmly. Silence. Complete silence. I watched the blood drain from his face. You, he said slowly. You were there that long? Mm-hmm. Ben looked genuinely horrified now, which almost made it worse. Not guilty enough to confess, not innocent enough to relax. His eyes flickered toward the window again before catching himself. That tiny movement told me everything. And suddenly, I didn't feel angry. I felt embarrassed. Embarrassed that I had spent the first year of marriage trying so hard to be enough. Enough Korean softness for his mother to adore me. Enough American confidence for his friends to admire me. Enough beauty, enough support, enough affection. Meanwhile, my husband was standing at a window drooling over a stranger in a shorts like a teenage boy. My mother's voice echoed again inside my head. Men will always notice. The problem starts when they forget who's standing beside them. I looked at Ben carefully then, and for the first time since we got married, I wondered if my husband had already started forgetting. Please like and share our stories on your WhatsApp group chat to help grow our YouTube family and YouTube channel. Don't go yet. Have you watched one of our recent uploads titled, How I Missed the Wife I Should Have Married Because of My Mother? It's an emotional rollercoaster. We will appreciate your comments and support. Leave us a comment below to let us know where you're watching from. Special thanks to the rising numbers of our amazing viewers and followers from London, New York, Canada, South Korea, South Africa, Australia, Kenya, and Jamaica. Once again, a big thank you and shout out to our Korean, Canadian, and Jamaican friends for the messages and the massive show of support on their WhatsApp groups. Welcome to episode 2, titled, Your Husband is a Fairly Decent Man. I don't know why you're so worried about your husband, Ben. Louisa laughed softly, stirring her cappuccino. He's a fairly decent man. The sunlight poured through the cafe windows, warm and golden against the polished wooden tables. Outside, couples walked hand in hand through the Saturday afternoon crowds, carefree and smiling. Mallory wished she felt that carefree. Shouldn't I be worried? She asked quietly. Louisa raised an eyebrow. The way my husband has been acting since the arrival of our new neighbour is very worrying. Louisa laughed again, though this time less confidently. Honestly, she thought Mallory was overreacting. Yes, the new neighbour was beautiful, painfully beautiful. Young, blonde, blue-eyed, rich-looking in that effortless way wealth sometimes announces itself without words. And the body? Even Louisa had noticed. The woman looked like she belonged on a luxury yacht in the south of France instead of a quiet suburban neighbourhood. But Ben? Ben never seemed like the cheating type. Seriously, Louisa said, leaning forward, I don't think Ben would ever cheat on you. Mallory stared down into her untouched latte. Has he ever cheated on you before? Louisa asked carefully. No, never. Have you ever caught him texting women? Lying? Sneaking around? No. Then why now? Mallory opened her mouth, but nothing came out, because she didn't really know. Or maybe she did. Women notice shifts before they notice proof. The delayed replies, the distracted eyes, the sudden interest in appearance, the emotional distance that arrives long before physical betrayal does. Mallory had noticed all of it, and she hated herself for noticing. Just then the cafe door opened. Ben walked in, tall, relaxed, handsome in that clean, dependable way that made people trust him immediately. The moment Louisa saw him, her expression changed so subtly Mallory almost missed it. Almost. Hey. Hi, Louisa. Ben smiled warmly as he approached their table. Hi, Ben, Louisa replied. Their handshake lingered half a second too long. Mallory suddenly noticed it. Or maybe she imagined it. These days, she wasn't sure anymore. She stood up and hugged her husband tightly before kissing him. Ben smiled against her lips and sat beside her naturally, resting one arm behind her chair. The perfect husband, the perfect couple, the perfect performance. You two talking about me? Ben joked. Obviously, Louisa laughed quickly. Mallory smiled faintly, watching both of them carefully now, and for the first time, something felt strange. Not between her and Ben, between Ben and Louisa. Tiny things. Tiny things always become big things eventually. That night, Louisa lay awake in bed staring at the ceiling fan, turning slowly above her. Her stomach twisted with guilt. Because while Mallory worried about the blonde neighbour next door, she had absolutely no idea about the real danger much closer to home. Louisa closed her eyes, but the memory came back anyway. Wine, music, rain against hotel windows. Ben's hands, one stupid night. One horrible mistake, a mistake they had both silently buried and agreed never to speak about again. It was weeks before their wedding. Except now Mallory's suspicions were growing sharper by the day. And Louisa couldn't stop wondering, did Mallory already know? Or worse? Was she beginning to figure it out who her husband really is? Ben wasn't a saint. He's nowhere near being a saint. I seriously doubt it. Mallory has any idea who she married. Meanwhile, across town, another woman sat on a balcony overlooking the quiet neighborhood street. A glass of wine rested between perfectly manicured fingers. The blonde neighbor, Chloe. Don't go yet. Have you watched one of our recent uploads titled, How I Missed the Wife I Should Have Married Because of My Mother? It's an emotional roller coaster. We will appreciate your comments and support. Leave us a comment below to let us know where you're watching from. Special thanks to the rising numbers of our amazing viewers and followers from London, New York, Canada, South Korea, South Africa, Australia, Kenya, and Jamaica. Once again, a big shout out to our Korean, Canadian, and Jamaican friends for the messages and the massive show of support for our YouTube channel on their WhatsApp groups. Welcome to the second half of this episode. What would you do? Mallory sat cross-legged on Louisa's couch, a half-finished glass of wine trembling slightly in her hand. What would you honestly do if you had a neighbour who spent half her life sunbathing in the garden with nearly all her clothes off? She asked. Tell me honestly, Louisa, if you were in my shoes, what would you do? Louisa sighed softly. Mallory. No, seriously, Mallory interrupted. Am I worrying too much? Or should I not worry at all? The room fell quiet. Because deep down, Mallory already knew this wasn't just about Chloe anymore. It was about Ben. Or more specifically, the version of Ben she suddenly felt she no longer fully knew. Louisa studied her carefully. Mallory looked exhausted. Not physically, emotionally. Like someone whose mind had been running non-stop for days. You're spiraling, Louisa said gently. Am I? Yes. Mallory laughed bitterly. That's easy for you to say. Louisa looked away briefly. Guilt flickered across her face so quickly most people would have missed it. But Mallory didn't. And that uneasy feeling returned again. That strange, invisible tension she kept noticing around Ben and Louisa. Tiny things. Tiny things always become big things eventually. Then Mallory said the thing that finally made her chest tighten. Then, this happened. Louisa looked up. My husband suddenly decided to start working from home 1 day a week. Silence. We didn't discuss it, Mallory continued quietly. That's the weird part. We discuss everything. Literally everything. Louisa forced a smile. Maybe he just wants a better work-life balance. No. Mallory shook her head instantly. No, this feels different. And honestly, it did. Ben had never liked working from home. He used to complain constantly about distractions, about noise, about not being productive outside the office. Yet suddenly, every Wednesday, Ben was home, and every Wednesday, Chloe sunbathed. At first, Mallory told herself it was coincidence. Then she started noticing patterns. Ben suddenly making coffee around the exact same time Chloe stepped outside. Ben standing near the kitchen windows longer than necessary. Ben pretending to check emails while his eyes drifted toward the garden. Little things. Always little things. The worst part wasn't even what Ben was doing. It was what Mallory was becoming. Suspicious. Hyper-aware. Obsessed with details. She hated it. She hated standing at upstairs windows checking if Chloe was outside. Hated timing Ben's movements subconsciously. Hated wondering whether her husband still looked at her the way he looked at that garden. One Wednesday afternoon, she finally snapped. Ben sat at the kitchen island with his laptop open, pretending to work. Outside, Chloe walked barefoot across her garden wearing tiny cream shorts and an oversized white shirt barely covering her thighs. Mallory saw Ben look, just for a second, but he looked. And this time, he knew she noticed. His eyes instantly dropped back to his screen. Too quickly. Far too quickly. The silence in the kitchen became unbearable. You know what's embarrassing? Mallory said suddenly. Ben looked up slowly. What? That I'm starting to feel uncomfortable inside my own house. Ben frowned immediately. What are you talking about? You know exactly what I'm talking about. Mallory. No. She folded her arms tightly. Don't make me sound crazy. I'm not making you sound crazy. Then stop looking at her. Ben exhaled sharply. I'm human. The second the words left his mouth, he regretted them. Mallory's face changed instantly. Not anger, pain. Actual pain. Oh, she whispered softly. Ben stood up immediately. That's not what I meant. But it is. No. You're basically telling me every time she walks outside half naked, I'm supposed to just accept that my husband will stare because he's human? Mallory, please. No, answer me. Ben rubbed his forehead in frustration. You're turning this into something bigger than it is. And there it was. The sentence women hear right before things fall apart. Mallory stared at him for several seconds, then nodded slowly. Maybe she was overthinking. Maybe she was insecure. Maybe she was imagining everything. Or maybe women only get called crazy when they start noticing the truth too early. Outside, Chloe adjusted her sunglasses slowly, and for the briefest moment, she looked directly toward their kitchen window. To be continued in the next episode.